This episode is sponsored by Molly Morris from M3 Virtual Accounting. I have been using Molly Morris for about 2 years now, I think 2.5 years, and I really wish that I had known about her and hired her sooner than I have. I used to be somebody who would put off taxes all year and then try and get everything done the night before taxes were due, and I don't have to worry about it at all anymore. It's taken care of. It's amazing. I cannot recommend her enough, especially if you have a small virtual business and you kind of don't know where to start with your taxes. So check her out. You can get a free consultation and she will tell you if she can help. It's m3virtualaccounting.com.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host Switcheroo, the rereading Return to Westeros, HBO Spoiler Edition, Uncut, Uncensored, and Too Hot for TV. We are covering chapters 12 and 13 of A Feast for Crows, Cersei and the Pussy-Whipped Knight. In these chapters, Cersei watches Tommen get married and seethes with rage throughout, and we meet Aerys Oakheart, who just, bless him. He cannot resist these fine titties. He just can't do it. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
Let's start with Cersei.
Yeah.
Cersei the angry.
Yep.
Cersei the displeased. She is just really not interested in even pretending to get along with anybody. And honestly, I kind of enjoy it at this point because go for it. Why not? Just make it as obvious as you can that you hate every living soul in this place.
Yeah, she really is like done pretending at this point. The best she can do is a thin veneer of I'm barely tolerating you in this moment, in this interaction, and I can't wait for it to be over. Every time she says something to someone out loud, then she thinks to herself, you fucking traitorous cunt. Yep. And then she says something to someone else and then thinks to herself, I can't wait to watch you die, you piece of shit.
Yep. Yep. It's I can't wait to watch you die. I'll teach you the meaning of pain. You absolute fool. Everybody's a fool. I mean, really, it must be exhausting to know everything all the time the way that she does.
I personally don't know anything about that.
Same.
Yeah, so it's Tommen's wedding day, and we already knew that she was not looking forward to this, that she tried her hardest to put this off, to make it not happen, and she just got boxed into a corner. So she's furious as soon as she wakes up this day. She's already mad about everything. And it opens with her being abusive to her sort of handmaiden, who's just trying to get her dressed because she literally has to get this abuse out and she can't yell at the people she wants to yell at. So she's just taking it out on this poor woman who's just trying to do her fucking job. And that really sets the tone, I think, for this chapter.
Very much so. Yeah, this is, well, real quick, if you guys hear odd thumpings and clunkings in the background, that is Samwise, who is in the room with me, recuperating. And he has been given a duck foot to chew on and is just very loud sometimes with that. So forgive me. But yeah, the fact that she has the self-awareness to just be like, I can't yell at who I want to, so you're going to have to take it. I actually did kind of respect the fact that she at least could see that's what she was doing. But then the fact that she's recognizing it and sees that it's not fair, and just is like, well, that's the way it is. I was like, man, ew.
Yep. The awareness does not change her behavior whatsoever, which actually kind of just makes it worse.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I
guess it's just refreshing for me for her to have any self-awareness, because it's not something we see with her a lot.
I love that when we do see it, it fucking doesn't make a difference.
It's true.
Because sometimes that's just like how that shit happens. You know, I tend at least to assume that people don't have any awareness about themselves when I see how they move. You know, I'll just think, oh, that person, fuck. You know, they don't see it. But that is not always true. That's oftentimes an assumption we make, or something we tell ourselves because we can't wrap our brains around the way the person is behaving. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, she does have these moments where she's very, very clear on why she is doing the thing that she's currently doing. And it doesn't make a difference. She continues to do it anyway. Because that just feels fucking real. There's a really unfortunate line about a boiled egg that I was just like, it is not important to the story, but I was like, oh, could we not do this? I didn't care about, did we have to have that? Why, George?
I think it's meant to be a little bit of like an omen.
I'm sure it's supposed to be something. You know,
and also it sets the tone for the fact that this bitch drinks all day and she doesn't eat anything.
That is true, because it's mentioned, I think, at least 3 times. She tries to have breakfast, but she can't because this, like, her stomach is already a mess, and this egg situation is just like, well, that's it for breakfast. Just bring me some fucking wine. And then when they're actually at the wedding feast, it's mentioned that she's just basically moving the food around the plate. She's never actually eating anything. And the other undercurrent of this whole day, I mean, her, as furious as she is really taking sort of the spotlight. But underneath it, she's terrified. She's completely terrified that something terrible is going to happen to Tommen. And, I mean, like her or dislike her, that feels really fucking fair. You know, I mean, we all collectively hate Joffrey, and he was an entire little piece of shit, and we were all glad to see him fucking die. But that's going to be hella traumatic for a mother to watch her son die in such a horrific way on, like, his wedding day. So the fact that she's running around traumatized from that, and then the recent murder of her father and the failure to apprehend the person who did it. So she's scared
not only
for Tommen.
Failure to apprehend, but then they uncover billions of secret passageways.
Oh, yeah,
which,
that too.
Good God.
Yeah.
There's something about that. Oh, that's a nightmare. Can you imagine?
You know, there's like a Jamie at one point is like, what do you think? You know, he's going to just crawl up out of the floor or crawl out of the hearth? And yeah, maybe. Have you seen all these fucking tunnels you found? You know, not to mention we find out that they've been searching, you know, all these passageways and busting through stone, and they've lost a couple people, you know, that just disappeared down these wells. Like one little kid had to be, you know, one kid had to be, because some of these passageways are so small, they had to use children, and one of the kids got stuck and he had to like drag his body out. Yeah, so you know what, her being a little on edge, understandable. And we've got Jamie, who is in one moment almost gaslighting her, like her fear is unreasonable, but also trying to comfort her, but doing a terrible job of it. Yeah. But also he is low-key as freaked out as she is, which we see in certain moments, especially when Tommen sort of chokes on his wine a little bit and they both like freak the fuck out. This whole thing too with the Tower of the Hand being destroyed, that was not in the show, I don't think. No. So I was like, oh shit, she's burning some more shit down? But it occurred to me that I don't know, like the show did her blowing the sept up and killing everybody. I don't know if that's book canon or not. So I don't know if I'm going to get like her setting a bunch more shit on fire than the show ever showed me or not. But I was like, oh, Cersei's dipping into wildfire. Wow.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you That is not canon.
Oh, so she didn't do that?
No.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
and that's
so
not to say that maybe that's, in her future, but it's definitely not in the book. So.
Okay. I guess by the time I don't know, because these two books that we're reading now happen chronologically concurrent. By the time we get to her blowing up the sept on the show, they were pretty done with the books, right?
I
can't
think it's hard to say, because some stuff they weren't. It just kind of is all over the place. The timing after a little while, because they just sort of did whatever they felt like with the timing, and how fast people could travel would affect things, and they don't care about that in the show. So
yeah. There's like little things that are set up that are reminding me of like that part of leading into that part of the story on the show, especially when we had when we met some of the sparrows on the road, and then when we meet the new Septon at the funeral for Tywin, and there was a mention in the funeral chapter, and there's a quick line in this chapter too, where we see that Lancel is often like whispering with the new Septon.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember from the show, at least, that the catalyst for that particular storyline was Lancel eventually confessing his sins, which included sleeping with Cersei, as part of his sort of penance. And she ends up getting dragged and then punished for those crimes. And that's, and that all leads to her big moment of revenge, right? So when those little things pop up, it makes me think about the show and where the show is. And then I do the thing where I'm just like, timing wise though, are we up to that yet? Like, are we that close to that part of the story? But anyway, so I just wanted to mention that when we get to this part at the end of her chapter where she is going to set that whole thing on fucking fire and watch it burn, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
she really does like that. She really does like playing with that wildfire.
Yeah, she's got a real. It's the only part of the day that she enjoys in any way. Mm-hmm. Yep, and I believe that, like, to my bones. That is genuinely true.
Yeah. And I also like in this chapter, we get some more mention of Maggie and the sort of prophecy that she lives in fear of. And I got a welcome reminder of part of that prophecy, which is that there's going to be a younger queen that's more beautiful than her, that replaces her. And I had forgotten about that part of it, so that helped remind me about her worry about Margaery. And in this chapter, we actually have Cersei being like, yeah, she's pretty, but I mean, everybody's pretty when they're 20. It's really not that impressive.
I do love too that the fact that Margaery looks more like her brother than she looks like Jaime really bothers her.
Yeah.
What a weird thing to be like salty about.
Yeah. And it's not just how much they look alike, but she's watching them dance and like how close they are. And she even says something like they could have been twins, even though Loras is older by like a whole year. But yeah, she gets salty by seeing, someone else have a relationship with their brother that's close. And it's like Cersei's just like, I own that.
What a weird, like...
Yeah. But it's not just that she owns it, too, because throughout this chapter, she is just so frustrated with Jaime and telling herself, I can't even believe I used to love him and need him. So I feel like part of the shade she's throwing towards Margaery and Loras is also about her mourning or missing or grieving the way she used to feel about Jaime and the way she used to believe in him, because she doesn't seem to believe. It's not just that she doesn't love him or she's not in love, because those things I think are still true, but she does not think that he is the man that she deserves for him to be. There's just like a loss of respect there that she seems to be deeply grieving, but doesn't know how to acknowledge in anything that comes close to a healthy way.
Yeah. Yeah, there comes like several instances in this chapter where she basically is like, you're useless, fuck off. And he has to be like, I love you too. And it's just the two of them sort of like needling each other, for lack of a better way to put it. But it's like they're each trying to connect with the other, and they're doing it in the wrong way for each of them. When they used to seem to be able to be like simpatico without effort. And, you know, Jamie is changing, and she has definitely changed while he was gone as well. And her paranoia is what it is. And it's not, like you said, completely unjustified paranoia. What happened seems pretty crazy. Like, this is big gossip that this dog gulps. Like, do you hear this? Oh my God. I'm so sorry. That's so distracting. But the guy got out of the black cells, crawled through secret tunnels nobody knew existed, killed their father who was on the toilet, and seemingly has escaped. And if he hasn't like left, then that's even worse, if anything.
Right.
What a bonkers situation. So, yeah, I mean, the paranoia is understandable, especially she genuinely thinks that like Tyrion is capable of some shit that I want to say we know he's not, and I still think that, but we know now he's capable of more than maybe we thought he was.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed.
You know, who knows?
We are kind of all Jamie being like, well, I didn't think he would kill our father, but then he killed our father, but still he wouldn't kill the kids, would he? He wouldn't do that. Cersei doesn't have any problem imagining that he's capable of all of that and much, much more.
Yeah.
She has this run-in with the Tyrells because she wants Tommen to not ever be alone with any of them. And this is one of the things she's talking with Jamie about. Like, she's making Jamie swear that he will be by Tommen's side at every moment, that Tommen is not to be left alone with any of them.
Yeah.
And Jamie is like, well, they're not going to be alone. She's going to have like all her little girl cousins. And Cersei is like, that is not making me feel better. Why would you think that makes me feel better? And so she tries to arrange it so that after the marriage, they like retire to separate rooms. And the Tyrells, especially Olenna, is just like, no. It's the marriage night. They should sleep in the same bed, even if all they do is sleep. You know, it's bad luck if they don't. And this is when Cersei is like, I'll teach you the meaning of ill luck.
Oh, God.
But she gets backed into a corner, and she ends up having to agree. And Olenna also gets a couple like shots in there too. She
says like, "You're so gracious," and everybody is like smirking at each other because so obviously
Olenna says at one point, "I'm sure you know that she's the boy's own mother. After all, that we know is true." And it's just like, what?
Oh,
like,
I love it.
Some of the shit that people were just saying right in Cersei's face at this point that she has to sort of swallow, even though it is true, you know? But she has to just stand there and pretend like that insult didn't imply what it implied.
Yeah, at one point she's like presenting the cloak that she wants Margaery to wear, but it's Lannister colors. And Olenna is like, that's real weird. Normally the bride wears her husband's colors, not the mom-in-law's colors. Just saying. And Cersei has to back off and is so like angry at the fact that they have put her in this spot with, and she's like, after Stannis's filthy letter. And I'm just, you know, I believe that Stannis probably blew their spot up, but I like to think Olenna would have been on the case on her own. just because she seems like the type to really investigate and put some shit together. She would have known what the Seed is Strong was immediately. That's who they should have wrote to instead of Ned Stark.
Yeah, you know what? I think I agree with you on that point. Yeah, I think definitely she, I mean, honestly, though, like anybody would have been better than Ned Stark to get that fucking letter.
Woo!
But.
Although I guess not, considering what was actually intended, because I still act like that note was meant to be like a caution, but it wasn't really. That was like.
That's true. That was a
purposely
setup.
To stir shit up. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if it maybe shit wouldn't have been so stirred if it had gone to somebody else. Like, so then maybe that makes Ned the perfect person to send it to.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask about this mention here of someone named Ossifer Plume, because I feel like I've heard that name before, but it is a reference to some sort of ancient or at least old history. But I couldn't remember.
Look at you remembering stuff, Rashawn. Yes, Ossifer Plum, and this is thank you to Austin Armenio. Austin's Info Corner. Woo! He says, remember Brown Ben Plum, the guy helping out Danny? This is his ancestor, the one who allegedly had a 6-foot dick.
Yes. Okay. So he comes up because Cersei is arguing with Jaime about the need to have Jaime in the room with Tommen at all time. And and Jaime's response is like, well, they're not gonna fuck. Tommen's a baby. And she says, and Ossifer Plum was much too dead, but that did not stop him fathering a child, did it? Jaime was like me and was like, who was Ossifer Plum? Was he Lord Philip's father? And she just thinks to herself, God damn it, this motherfucker is dumb as Robert. All his wits were in his sword hand. And then she tells him to forget it, so we don't get an explanation of who he was in the moment.
And Austin says he allegedly had a 6-foot dick. In actuality, he had a child born 6 months after his death. Which I would argue maybe that wasn't his child, or it was premature. But evidently everybody's just like, look at how virile he is. His dick was 6 foot long so that his wife could ride it while he was buried. That's the way I interpret it anyway.
I mean, I guess my math is wrong because I just figured maybe his wife was 3 months pregnant when he died. Like, isn't that the most reasonable explanation?
I guess I didn't even think of that, and I don't know why. I'm just assuming that because it's notable that nobody knew she was pregnant when he died, or else it wouldn't be mentioned because plenty of dudes die with pregnant wives, you know. So I'm figuring there has to be some special circumstance, but maybe not.
Wasn't when Brown Ben is talking about his family, doesn't he also say that they're fancy? Not fancy. You guys know what I mean? Like a descendant from a noble house or something. You know what I mean? What
yeah. Aren't they related to the Targaryens way down the line somewhere?
I think so. I think that's what his claim is that he's from Targaryens, but I can't remember. The name is Plum, so they would have had to, I guess, married maybe a Targaryen woman. But I have no idea.
The name Plum. It's a good last name.
Yeah. Meh.
No?
It feels...
I don't know. It's fun in the mouth.
It's because I'm thinking of Clue.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
I was about to say, it sounds too charactery to me to be a real name, but it's because I'm thinking of Clue.
That's fair.
But anyways, I wanted to ask about that, and I'm glad that Austin anticipated my question and went ahead and gave us a little notey note on it.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, speaking of old history coming up, in the next chapter, we get a fucking shout out to that bitch ass Kristen Cole. And I was like, I get this reference.
That bitch ass indeed.
But that's the very next chapter, so we'll get there in a minute. So, they have this fucking wedding. And everybody. It's. I want to make sure I mention too that this wedding is so much more subdued than the big blowout they had for Joffrey.
So much.
This is a small, intimate gathering of like barely 100 people with only 7 courses, as opposed to what was it, like 77 for Joffrey's?
Yeah. I feel like it might have even been 777 or something. I feel like it was even crazier than that. I'm gonna look this up.
I think it was just 77.
How many courses at Joffrey's wedding? Let's see what the interwebs will tell us. You're right, 77 courses. Wow, a wiki of Ice and Fire, they call it the Purple Wedding. And the you know how results on Google will come up with bolded text at the top? It says 77 courses and a regicide. Never a wedding like it. Oh man, all right. We've got a Quora where somebody asks, what are the 77 courses? And it looks like somebody actually answered with every course, but it's behind the start a free trial on Quora paywall. So I'm really disappointed that I can't read all of them.
He didn't include. I mean, I guess maybe there's like an appendix somewhere that has all the courses, or maybe George wrote about it later, because he definitely didn't give us the whole menu in the book when it was happening.
Not quite, no.
So what the fuck?
Sorry,
where are we at? Sorry,
I interrupted you. But yeah, it's a much more subdued wedding. And Cersei at one point mentions that she had somebody else plan it because she just couldn't do it after everything else.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, and that they have now for this feast, they've got like a taste tester on deck. So the food is also, somebody is watching every step of the food preparation from, kitchen to table. And they've got the taste tester there and all these guards. And, it's a... I the way it's described, not only is it subdued, but it's like almost somber, Yeah. Cersei, speaking of somber, Cersei is wearing her black mourning gown still, so she wears that to the wedding. And fucking Margaery wears the same dress that she wore to marry Joffrey. So like, what are we doing here today? What?
This is such a mess. Oh my God.
It really is. And so there's a couple of moments where there's a lot of back and forth with her and Jaime throughout this chapter, but there's some other moments too, like at the actual wedding. Someone gets up to toast her, and they're like, because first someone toasts Margaery and Tommen, and then someone else is like, and let's toast to the 2 queens, the new one and the old one. I'm just like, good God.
Oh, here we go. New Rebecca and old Rebecca.
Right. But there's also some moments where Cersei is thinking out loud about how she would feel safer if she could just take Tommen and rule from the Rock. And Jaime starts to lecture her about how that wouldn't work and the king has to be in King's Landing. And she's like, I didn't fucking say I was going. I fucking said I'd like to. God damn it. I'm not an idiot. I am aware of that. But Jaime also ignores her a lot through this chapter because she just keeps throwing shots at him. And he's like either ignores her or just says, I love you too, sweet sister, in response.
Yep. So
he has decided that the word for the day is to not engage.
Yeah. Which I think is smart. She's looking for a fight. You don't want to start this with her.
Absolutely. At one moment, he's kind of cautioning her about the danger of setting the tower on fire. Because, shit gets out of hand, and wildfire is, everybody thinks they can control it, and people are always wrong. And she gets real salty about that, and then thinks to herself, like, how could I have ever fucking loved this man? She calls him a wretched creature. And her little, right? So fucking dramatic. And she's
I need to remember wretched creature for like online insults. Oh, that's a good one. There's nothing like problematic about it. It's just really to the point.
Get a ban for it. I don't know exactly what they would ban you for. And her thought is to herself, he was your twin, he was your shadow, your other half. And then, like, she's having this back and forth in her head. And then the voice is like, maybe he was that, but not anymore. He's a stranger to me now. And it's like, it's short. It's like 3 sentences, but it's very sad. And I mean, you don't want to root for the incest, but you have this relationship. You have this man that she, has decided she could always count on. And like you said earlier, he is changing. He is not the same person. And when that happens in real time, for good or for bad, you can feel betrayed, when someone is not who you remember them to be. And if, like, I guess if you're not toxic, then you're like, and the changes are positive, then you're like supportive of that and all that shit. But it doesn't really always work out like that. Sometimes you feel straight up like, oh, you just really switched the whole game up. Like, I don't even know who you are anymore. And we can feel like we're the victim in that scenario. Whether or not
sometimes if the changes are for the better, it's like worse because you're not changing for the better, and you feel like their improvement is an accusation somehow. Yeah,
and that's where it feels like Cersei is sitting. That is the energy for this particular dynamic. It feels like he is not even on his redemption arc fully yet, but he is not. I don't want to say obey because that puts a lot more onus on Cersei than I intend to do in this moment. But he doesn't follow her lead the way he used to. And like you said earlier, it was easy to do because it really was like they were one person and of one mind. So it was easy to follow her lead because it was like almost his instinct as well, Yeah. But now he's just in a different place, hopefully we consider like a better place TM, but I'm not making that judgment call just yet. But he's not the same, and his motivations aren't the same, and his considerations aren't the same. And she can feel that, like, when someone is not moving the way you're accustomed to them moving,
Yeah.
And that can just be a really, really uncomfortable place to be, and a sad place to be. But she doesn't have the emotional intelligence to put all that out there. So it just feels to her like he got body swapped, like she woke up one day and he was just a different fucking person. Yeah. So that was for me surprisingly sad, that moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get the description of the very modest wedding. She is still not eating. She is drinking. She is surrounded by like people she does not respect, people she does not trust, and she just sees fucking enemies everywhere. And there's a somebody comes out, and who is it? It is
we have Sir Kevin talking to her. Is that who you're thinking of?
Well, he comes up next. Before him, there's her like sort of surveying the room, and she's sort of taking account of like everybody that's around, and talking about like there's this one guy. She wants to. This is the guy who says Westeros has 2 queens now, and the young one is as beautiful as the old one, and that's when she's like, "He's fucking motherfucker," and then she, looks around the room and she doesn't trust anybody. And she looks and she sees Kevin. And she says to him, "I understand you mean to leave us for another wedding." And this is because his son is, I guess, going to be married, right?
Yeah.
Lancel.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me thinking again. This is another moment where I was thinking back about the show because I don't remember if Lancel being married to someone else was part of the deal on the show. If that was like a plot point or anything like that.
I don't remember it.
And she's talking to her uncle, and he says something about the Hound. They're talking about, I think she should ask something about, like, is your wife going for your wedding? And he's just like, no, it's too dangerous. They start talking about, like, all the shit that's happening out in them streets. And he says,
and he mentions Vargo Hote's guys are still abroad, which I was like kind of surprised by, because I think I had assumed since he got caught that all of his other dudes also got caught, but evidently a bunch of them just made a break for it, so they got him. But
they're just running out there like fucking, I don't know who's in charge of them now. I imagine they're probably even more dangerous if they're not fucking organized. They're just out there committing mayhem willy nilly. And he says that Dondarrion has been hanging Freys, which we know why that is, right? Because we know now about Cat riding with them, and apparently they're out there about that business, which I am 100% here for. And then he brings up the Hound, and they have a back and forth a little bit, and then it just ends up with him talking about how, you know, when a dog doesn't fucking behave, the fault lies with the master, and then just walks away, leaving her standing there.
Yep. Yeah, because we get a mention that he says, if my service is not required at the Rock, and we find out that she named her cousin Castellan and another cousin Warden. Yeah. And then thinks insulin has its price, Uncle. So just the fact that he wouldn't be Hand and asked to be Castellan, she wouldn't grant it just on GP.
Yep. And then she tries to make
thinks
a deal.
That's totally reasonable.
Yeah, but then she's like, if you bring us Sandor's head, I'm sure that, you know, his grace will be most grateful. Almost as if like, all right, well, you do this, and then maybe we'll think about giving you some of what you want. And that's when, and instead of taking her up on this little sly offer, that's when he makes a comment about when a dog goes bad and just walks away. So he doesn't even fucking give her the pleasure of pretending to, you know, think about this offer, you know, and dealing with her in that way. Like, he's just like, no, I'm not playing with you. I'm not playing this little game. You did what you did, and, you know, it's fine. I'm just going to walk away.
Sit in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that probably does not make her feel great, because it probably was like a moment of her feeling like, yeah. See what the fuck you earned when you told me no. Now let me try to twist the knife and see if I can get you to grovel, you know, and do for me what I need, and maybe I'll give you a little something. And he's just like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Nope.
I am sure you had this all played out in your head when you were in the shower this morning, this whole conversation, how you thought it was going to go. But I have no interest. And leaves her standing there, I have to say, feeling pretty silly.
Yeah. Yeah, this it transitions pretty quickly to Jaime telling her that Lady Olenna is heading to Highgarden the next day. And Cersei's like, so she says. And he's like, dude, she's like packing. She's going. Okay. And he says, Mace is taking half the Tyrell's strength to Storm's End, and the other half will be going back to the Reach with Sir Garland to make good his claim on Brightwater. A few more days, and the only roses left in King's Landing will be Margaery and her ladies and a few guardsmen.
Which should be making her feel better, because she feels like, you know, she's surrounded by enemies. But she replies, oh, fucking Sir Loras is still going to be here. You know, one of your fucking men, basically. And Jaime's like, he doesn't count. He's a Kingsguard. And she is not impressed.
No.
But he does give her the satisfaction of agreeing that Jaime would not have chosen Loras either. You know, but no one asked him his opinion. They just went ahead and did this shit. But does then back off of that, and it's like, but Loras is fine. Because once you take the oath, then that's for real. So he's no longer you shouldn't continue to consider him a Tyrell and your enemy. You should be considering him a Kingsguard, because his oath is now Tommen. Which I have to be honest, Jaime knows what the fuck she's talking about and what she means when she's expressing his concern about this family. And you telling her that, oh, he swore an oath and now he's a Kingsguard and that is trumps everything. Get the fuck out of my face, sir.
Agree. I have
Get
to
the
agree.
fuck
Yeah.
out of my face. And
like,
I know,
sir, you're also Kingsguard. And I know that at this point, maybe you would say that it trumps everything. But I don't know that the Jaime that left King's Landing and had his hand would have said that. So.
Yep. And so, you know, there's just the two of them together is so much tension and distrust between the two of them now. So much more than I think was ever really portrayed on the show.
Very much so.
But again, he just replies back to her with the, you know, I love you, sweet sister, because he's just not having this conversation with her today if he can help it. And there's just like, oh my God, fucking Lady Olenna talking about the musician when he's done. Oh, I know they were going to play Reigns of Castamere.
I'm so sorry.
Why is she like this?
She's a delight.
Oh my God.
What a disappointment.
I love this too. Cersei is like, every time I look at this old bitch, she looks like Maggie the Frog. And then she thinks to herself, all old women look alike. That's all it is. But really, and she acknowledges that they don't look anything else alike. But there's something about Olenna that makes Cersei think of Maggie. And really, it's it is her fears like manifesting in this little old lady, because Cersei understands, I think, much, and at least talks about it more than other people seem to be willing to fucking talk about it. Though on the show, we got a lot of Varys exposition about just how dangerous Olenna is.
Yes.
But here in the books, it feels like, it almost is like we're supposed to think Cersei's crazy, because why is Cersei so worried about this fucking little old lady? You know, like, she's so fucking paranoid. But we know, because we watched the show, she is not to be fucked with. Cersei is not being paranoid when it comes to Olenna at all.
No.
That is,
and I don't even think that we're supposed to think she's paranoid, because it's so heavily hinted that Olenna had something to do with Joffrey's death. You know, that I think that it's more meant to be like, Cersei is suspicious of her, but for some of the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? Like, she's right, but not on purpose.
Right. Well, yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair enough. She is picking up on something, and in her mind, she's right. Like in this passage specifically, she's trying to make it make sense. Like, why does this old woman make me think of one of like the worst moments and scariest moments that I remember from my childhood? You know?
Yeah.
What is going on there? And it's like, you know, on some level, she is really very clear on how dangerous Lady Olenna is, but it would be difficult, I think. Olenna has mastered the art of just sort of almost being untouchable in the way that you can get away with when you're older and you're rich and powerful, you know, where you just sort of, your persona or your appearance is so disarming. You know, oh, she's just a sweet little old lady doting on her granddaughter, you know?
Yeah, I love it.
But she really knows how to weaponize that. And, I mean, if Cersei were just a little bit different, she could have been an Olenna herself in her older age. If she was just a little bit smarter.
Agree. If she were a little bit smarter, and in that Olenna understands like the way to appease people, and Cersei just has no interest in ever appeasing anybody, because every time the appeasement comes up, she sees it as like, oh, somebody's trying to take advantage and they're trying to get something out of us. Like, even letting Tommen sleep in the same bed as Margaery, and then Margaery not having to wear the Lannister colors and wearing the Baratheon colors instead. She thinks to herself something about how, like, the more we give to these Tyrells, the more they take. And I'm like, in response to them wanting her to be wearing what is allegedly her husband's colors, that's not you sacrificing anything or them taking anything from you. That's her doing you a favor and pointing out something that probably a lot of people would notice and whisper about, that it's sort of odd. And I don't know, it feels like anything that comes from a person that she doesn't like, she assumes cannot benefit her at all. And it can, though, if you just fucking like handled it the right way. And she doesn't.
She doesn't know how to take counsel from anybody. I mean, how her uncle tried to fucking tell her what's what a couple times.
And all she does in this chapter is be like, he's conspiring. I can't even trust my bannermen since they're clearly against me too. Girl, go get some fucking Advil and lay down.
So
she just needs some time.
We have, and the way she's talking about everybody too, or not just. There's a bit again when she's thinking about the prophecy, and then thinking about how Margaery isn't nearly as pretty as everybody says she is, but the world is full of fools. Only a fool would ever claim she was more beautiful than I am, but the world was full of fools. And so was her son's court. Then there's a moment when Tommen is dancing with Margaery and then everybody else, and all Cersei can think of is how he's embarrassing himself and giving everybody something to laugh at and laugh at her about.
Which, like, how old is Tommen meant to be? I don't think anybody's laughing at him, Cersei. I think people are like, oh, look at Tommen. He's so small and young, and, I don't know.
Anybody would be humiliated in this moment. It would be Margaery, I would think.
Right.
Told to marry like an 8-year-old and pretend like it's normal and natural and you're in love with him. But Cersei doesn't seem to see it from that vantage point at all because that humiliation pales against the opportunity to become fucking queen,
Yeah.
So it doesn't, I guess, count as far as Cersei is concerned. And then we have Tommen choking on his wine, and that really sending Cersei over the edge. And she has to excuse herself because she doesn't want to cry in front of everybody. And that Lady Merryweather follows her out. And we had met her a couple of chapters ago. She's the wife who is from someplace else, I think Mere. And Cersei remembers her from before, remembers that, she's ambitious. And in this conversation, the woman comes to tell Cersei that her, one of her ladies is spying on her for Margaery.
Yeah.
And it's a woman named Sinel. And Lady Merryweather claims that she goes and meets with not Margaery herself because that would just be too obvious, but with the cousins at the set while they pretend to pray.
Yeah, it's pretty tricksy.
Yeah, and I love this too because Cersei says, "Well, okay, you know what? This is weird because you're one of fucking Margaery's girls. I see y'all together, and your family house belongs to Highgarden, so there's absolutely no reason I should fucking trust anything you're telling me. It makes no sense." And the woman's response I thought was really interesting and surprising for these books. Her response, because these books are so fucking bogged down with my house and my honor and, she says, look, I'm fucking married to the fucking Merryweathers, but I'm not from here. I'm from some other place. And the only thing that I give a fuck about is me and mine. I want what's best for them. That is it. And you don't really get a lot of that energy in Westeros, at least,
Yeah, not really.
Not from like any of these highborn families. It's you have your one-offs that are about their own agenda, but everything is always so I gotta make my house look good. I can't dishonor my house and my family name, and they are sworn to them, so I'm sworn to them. She's just like, no, ma'am. I'm just visiting here.
Yeah. And
And go ahead.
Cersei is like, all right, well, we'll see if you're telling the truth. If you are, you'll be rewarded. And if you've lied to me, I'll have your tongue and your lord husband's lands and gold as well.
Yeah.
Girl, just calm down. I'm saying just have an Advil and go lay down. She's just been drinking too much and is too upset.
I like that she remembers that that this woman had testified, because I had forgotten that she testified. I don't know if I forgot or if it was not explicit. No, it was definitely mentioned. She testified at Tyrion's trial and claims to have witnessed him poisoning Joffrey's cup.
Mm-hmm.
And so Cersei is like, "Oh, that's right. All right. Well, maybe I will."
She must
look
be
into
okay.
This. Mm-hmm. And she leaves Grace. She leaves Cersei by just saying, "Your Grace is kind and beautiful," which is just like, yeah, you've been watching the day she's had. How many people have been remarking on how beautiful Margaery is?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna want to go slip in and tell Cersei she's really pretty. You're gonna want to do that, because it's gonna work out well for you.
Yeah, there goes somebody that Cersei could take some lessons on diplomacy and whatnot.
So yeah, we get,
and this is when they run
end.
across Jaime again, and he's like, the boy is safe, and again, fool, nobody who wears a crown is safe. Well, then go ahead and fucking, like, don't wear the crown then. I don't want to hear about it anymore, frankly. You claim that this is all such a burden. It's like people whining about having too much money. Get over it. And let's see, Margaery and Tommen began the dancing. We talked about this already. Margaery took a turn around the floor with her father and then her brother, and all these people come and ask Cersei to dance, including Jaime, who she's just like, oh, and have you fumbling at me with your stump? No, but you could fill my goblet. And he's like, I'm good.
If you think you can manage it without spilling, she says. And then he's like, what, me? Nope, I probably couldn't handle that. And he walks away. And then we have, my God, Jaime being like, I think you've had enough to drink tonight. At one point, she tries to stand up and she almost like lurches right over.
I really enjoy how it's very clear to us as readers. She's been drinking too much. Everybody else can see it. We know that she's barely eaten. But when she stands up, she says that she stands so fast, she almost fell. So it's very clear in her POV that she doesn't get that she's drunk. Like, she doesn't, that's not really factoring in for her.
Oh, not at all. When he says, I think her Grace has had enough, she says, no, all the wine in the world would not be enough to see me through this fucking wedding. I have not had nearly enough of what I need. She's also spent the whole day like really judging people. There's a whole thing where she's looking at this Valerian kid who makes an appearance in this book for the first time, I think. The first time I remember anyway. His name is Orain Waters. And she starts this, she describes him and mentions that he is Valerian. And she says that he looks almost like Rhaegar Targaryen. And then she says, no, he's not even half as cute. His face is too narrow and he's got that cleft in his chin. Nah, he's not that cute at all. And I was like, this guy is on the other side of the room. Mind his business.
She's like one of those people that comments on outfits on the red carpet. Just like, she's not even at the red carpet. She's watching it on a screen, but she's freely commenting.
No, and no one has asked her for any of this commentary.
Yep.
And then she notices, I think it's Mace talking with, is it Tommen? Yeah, she's looking for Tommen.
Sure.
She's looking for Tommen, and she finds him in a corner talking with Mace Tyrell's son, Garland. And she's just like, what do they have to talk about? The Reach might call Garland gallant, but I don't trust him or Margaery or Loras. And that, she's thinking about the coin, that weird old coin they found in the black cells. And she is, she's spinning out. She's got the coin from Highgarden. Now that she knows Margaery is spying on her, that girl comes to fill her wine cup, and Cersei has the resistant urge to take her by the throat and throttle her. Don't you presume to smile at me, you treacherous little bitch. You'll be begging for mercy before I'm done. Holy fuck, you guys. But granted, she is, every time she turns around, she's hearing something else that does not sound great. And she's
Do you think this is true?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know this Lady Merryweather well enough yet to have a full understanding of what she's trying to accomplish by sidling up to Cersei, because if she is close with Margaery and Highgarden and they have so much influence right now, she seems like she's pretty well positioned. But by her own account, it doesn't sound like she, Merryweather, trusts that their position is secure within like whatever the hierarchy is at Highgarden. So I don't know what and why she needs Cersei to be on her side, but for whatever reason, she's decided that this is a good move.
Right.
And I don't know what she's willing to do. Like, sidling up to Cersei and making her feel good and calling her pretty and telling her that she's brilliant and all that is one thing, flattery. But to sell out Margaery is a real big leap. That's like I'm throwing in with you 100%, And I don't know if I understand exactly what is behind that, what's going on there. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. So then we get to the end of the night, and it is time to Cersei gets everybody's attention after she almost falls. The reason she stood up is because it's time to set some shit on fire.
Yeah, she gets really excited about this. The thing goes up in a whoomph, and Margaery does, the flames are dancing just as we did, my love. They are. Mother, look, they're dancing. I see them.
She does that because Tommen is afraid. And so she doesn't have any reaction to it, to Tommen's fear. Like, it doesn't seem like she even notices it. But Tommen is just like, oh no, what's this? And Margaery like steps in to calm him down.
Yeah, but Cersei just has no time for any weakness, especially Tommen's. Like, all he ever gets is compared to Joffrey. So
meanwhile,
it's
Cersei
like
is...
the dancing, he's 8 years old, and she's like, well, he isn't as graceful as his brother. Well, who was like, twice his age. Not quite, but whatever.
And also, big for his age. So even though he was only like, I guess 16 or whatever, he was not like some little clumsy kid at his wedding. She's fucking watching this tower burn and naming all the fucking people that she hopes are dead and burning now. She's just fucking all of them. She names all these people I've never fucking heard of. And all of them are burning now. They're dead and burning, everyone, with all their plots and schemes and betrayals. It's my day now. It's my castle and my kingdom. Damn.
Is it?
Oh, boy. I mean, girl, I guess.
And then we have part that I really enjoy personally, where they command for Tommen and Margaery to get put to bed. And Jaime asks, so we bring you to sleep as well? And she says, no need. The flames are so pretty. I want to watch them for a while. You shouldn't stay alone. I will not be alone. Sir Osmond can remain with me and keep me safe. Your sworn brother. And she slides her arm through his. And all I could think was how Jaime has these suspicions because of what Tyrion said about Kettle Black fucking her. And then she's over here like, oh, I don't need you. And puts her arm through his. And this has to kill Jaime a little bit. Like, you know, I mean, this is just going to be fuel to his suspicions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I imagine, I'm not sure about the time jump, but the next Jaime chapter we get, I'm very curious to see if we get his POV from the wedding or if we're just going to like move forward in time. But yeah, that felt very pointed, very kind of like I can picture her face and her expression as she's doing this to really just stick it to Jaime. Yeah, so that's her chapter.
So then we go to the Soiled Knight. And this is a new POV.
Yeah, so we had a POV in Dorne before.
Right.
But it was a different knight. It was Doran's like knight or protector who was telling us. Yeah,
Aerys Oakheart. Right?
So now we're back, but it's this Aerys Oakheart guy. And him, I remember, and thankfully he also reminded me in his POV as well, who he is. So he is one of the Kingsguard, and he was sent to Dorne to protect Myrcella. And he's the one that, even though he did hit Sansa, felt bad about it and tried not to hit her. He would pull his punches with her. He would not hit her as brutally as he was capable of doing, and as a lot of the other men did. So that's who this guy is. And the Soiled Knight. Turns out his little white cloak is spotted.
Indeed. He came all over it.
Yeah, well.
You know.
Yeah.
For instance.
It's all crusty.
And so, the chapter starts off with him just like sort of telling us about how much everybody who is from King's Landing is being
how unsafe it
persecuted,
is to them here.
Basically. Yeah.
Dorne is up in arms after the murder of Oberyn and then the imprisonment of the Sand Snakes, which we know Prince Doran did because he was trying to like calm everything down because this whole city was like crying out for blood. But in news that surprises nobody, unfairly imprisoning the women that the people look up to and support just made them angrier.
It sure did.
You know, no one could have seen this turn of events. It is shocking to all involved. So the streets are not safe for foreigners right now, especially people from King's Landing. So Aerys is moving through these streets. In my head, I envision the fucking Assassin's Creed cloak that fucking Daemon fucking Targaryen wears throughout House of Dragon every time he's wanted like a secret kill mission. This is what I'm picturing, even though I think it's not exactly the same fit. He's wearing like Dornish traditional clothes. But and he is on his way to a clandestine meeting, but we don't know exactly what it is until like we get there. He's on his way to see a woman he's fucking that he shouldn't be seeing and he shouldn't be fucking.
Indeed, indeed.
And it's not just any woman, y'all. It is the fucking princess. It is the princess. Doran's daughter, and her name is Arianne?
Arianne Martell, yes.
Right. You know, so yeah, that's what your boy has been up to. And
for some reason isn't in the show, which I find completely baffling.
She wasn't in the show at all? Oh, yeah, I guess not.
No. They basically like kind of combine her character with Oberyn's paramour. Illyria, is that her name?
Yeah.
And it just, for me, they fuck the Sand Snakes up so completely and then delete her entirely. And I was just basically like, all right, I'm done with this shit.
So I don't want to make any long jumps, but I want to make not a prediction or a theory, but a thing that I'm thinking in my brain. So there was like 2 sets of stories with the Sand Snakes on the show. So like first, Illyria and Oberyn show up in King's Landing and they're hot and sexy and it's hot and sexy to see them.
Mm-hmm,
Then he dies, right? And then she
Right.
goes home, and on the show, they want war. They don't get to have war, and the Sand Snakes go to King's Landing. But on the show, they use Illyria as sort of like the ringleader that like incites them with like the rage and tells them, yeah, you're right to go there and get vengeance and all that kind of shit, right? So this chapter, when we meet her, like a lot of this chapter, because it's his POV, is really just him fucking, I'm so weak, my body's betrays, I'm breaking my oath, but goddamn that pussy good. You know, boring, super boring. But she is trying to convince him to support, what the fuck is her name?
Marcella.
Marcella. I keep wanting to call her Marcellus, and then I'm like, that's not right. And then I overcorrect. She is trying to convince Aerys to support Marcella for the Iron Throne. So she's got some ambitions herself. Arianne does.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering if in the book, whatever this side thing, I don't know if this whole like get Marcella on the throne is like a real plot point in this book or she's just talking crazy. I really don't know yet. But I'm wondering, because she also says a couple of times how close she is with the Sand Snakes. So like maybe she's the one that is, I don't want to call her the ringleader, but you know what I mean? Like instead of like what they did with Illyria, maybe her character would be the one that's, you know what I mean? Like has access to the throne, but is also like, yeah, y'all go wreck shit. You got my full support behind the scenes.
Yeah, I feel like in the show they wanted to kill Marcella, didn't they? Weren't they
tried
trying
to poison her?
Poison her, something like that?
Yeah, with like lipstick or something.
Oh, that's right. Oh God, that's so stupid. Okay, I'll just, that's not just, I'll just put that out there also.
That's not a thing. Okay.
That's just so annoyingly stupid. I just get so mad thinking about it.
That was confusing to me too, because I'm listening to, like I said, I'm just meeting her really for the first time in his POV through him. And I couldn't remember. I remembered that this character, Arianne, didn't exist in a real plot story way, but I thought that we had met her like once or twice when we went to Doran, like she was just like around. But she's talking about installing Marcella on the throne, and I'm like, but y'all killed her though on the boat. You kissed her and then sent the boat out. So I was just like, all right, well, I guess things are going to be different. But
yeah, and that's kind of part of the whole deal with the way that they've handled the Dornish characters is they make them like they just want to kill her for why? Just to be like, well, eye for an eye. No. They have a lot like bigger ambitions than just we want to screw you. And they are have a lot more like foresight and planning involved in their schemes. It's the long game. They're not just going to kill her for what? It's just they just fucking huge disservice to this whole part of the story.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I want to also mention how much I enjoyed because we didn't get any I don't recall really having any information about Marcella's time in Dorne other than when Oberyn died and the Sand Snakes showed up. In this chapter, we find out not only is she just basically beloved by everybody, but she also loves everyone there. This boy, Tristan, that she's engaged to, they get along really well. It's also mentioned that like the whole thing about getting her on the throne is that she's just in at least in Arianne. Is it Arianne? Ariana? I forgot.
Arianne.
In her estimation, Marcella is the better person for the job. Like, so I just like learning that she's turning into like a really smart young woman. She's still a little girl, but that she's smart. They're playing this game that sounds a little bit like it would be chess, and that she learns it so that she can play with Trystane, because like everybody in Doran is crazy for this new game.
Mm-hmm.
And she learns how to play it after him, but before you know it, she's beating him at every game.
Good for
And
you,
he
girl.
also doesn't care about it. Like, he's not like emasculated because she's beating him. And so I don't know. I just really like.
Nice.
I just like getting those little bits and being like, oh shit, maybe getting her out of King's Landing was the best thing anybody could have fucking done for her.
Right?
Like, look at how she's thriving away from her fucking mother's influence.
Agree.
So yeah, that part was good. But yeah, so we get these two, and we're reminded that because Aerys is like, well, she can't because she's a girl. And we get reminded that in Doran, like, that is not, necessarily the rule of law.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of nowhere, we get a Kristen Cole reference.
Yeah, because he's just like, well, I can't see you. He came to her with the full intention of being like, this is over. I can't do this anymore. And then when he's like, hey, wait, where are you? She's like, I'm right here.
And she's
comes
butt-ass
out
naked with a snake.
Yep. And he is just immediately like, oh, I'm inside you. Oh, how did that happen? That just happened. That's so wild how that just happened and I had nothing to do with it.
And then the minute they're done fucking, which seems like it was phenomenal for everybody involved. The minute he's done and he pulls out, he's just like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I just think it's boring.
And he had a whole conversation with Prince Doran where Doran's like, I think we need to get Myrcella out of here. It's dangerous. I'm going to bring her to the Water Gardens and she'll be a lot safer there and away from people. And Myrcella is like, you think he really wants to take her there because she'll be safer? No.
Oh,
he's taking her there. Oh, what did I say?
Myrcella.
Oh, yeah, my bad. But Arianne is like, you think he wants to take her there because of her safety? No, he's worried that the sand snakes are going to try and crown her. And that's why he locked them up. And that's why he's trying to get her out of their way. And once she goes there, she's not going to be able to leave. That's going to be her prison. And he does a little bit like, oh, a prison with fig trees. And she's just like, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Which I did appreciate. I like that it's mentioned like he protested weekly. That even he knows that this isn't the fucking but he's got to stick to his guns a little bit.
First thing he's done fucking her, he looks at the ceiling and he's like, oh, there's a crack in it. I didn't notice that. Then he's like, it could have been a fucking dragon outside looking in the window and I wouldn't have seen that shit either. I've never seen anything but her breasts, her face, and her smile.
Oh, bless him.
So he's, wallowing in his shame and self-loathing because he's fallen in love and is fucking a woman that, and he's an oathbreaker now.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say there's also a back and forth where she is trying to be like, I think maybe this is how, I don't know how Kristen Cole comes up, but there's a point where she's just trying to be like, you have to understand you're not the only fucking knight who's done this, right? Like, dude, a casual look through your own history books would tell you. And she names like two people, and then she names someone else, and he's like, "Nuh-uh, not that guy."
She's just like, "Ooh, you didn't know about that one? Yeah."
Like, I never heard that story before.
I do enjoy that a lot.
But
there's a bit here I just want to mention. Austin's Info Corner. Aerys mentions the orphans have brought the game of Sivas to Dorne. And he says, these are the orphans of the Green Blood, an ethnic minority in Dorne similar to the Romani. When the Rhoynar came to Dorne, the vast majority integrated into Andal Dornish society and adopted their language and their religion. The orphans are the minority who refused to and adopted a semi-nomadic life on the Green Blood, Dorne's major river. And then he says, there was a great quote about Doran Martell. Okay. There's a great quote from another Song of Ice and Fire podcast that I listened to. Quote, "The fact that there is a canonically 20-something big-boobed brown girl who loves sex and D&D didn't include her in the show tells me they really didn't read books 4 and 5. Which I also suspect that they actually never got past the fucking Red Wedding and they just did Spark Notes or God knows what. And then there's a list of the Kingsguard members who have had sex. Sir Terence Toyn, who slept with the mistress of King Aegon IV, the Unworthy. Sir Lucamore Strong, the Lusty, who had 3 wives and 16 children hidden throughout King's Landing. He was gelded and sent to the wall. Kristen Cole in the show alluded to this incident.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Prince Aemon Targaryen, the Dragon Knight, said to have slept with his sister Queen Daenerys Targaryen, and Sir Doran Martell, uncle of Doran Oberyn and Elia. I think that's the one that he didn't know about. Became a member of the Kingsguard when Elia married Rhaegar. And then Sir Kristen Cole, the Kingmaker, who Austin lists as the Incel Knight from House of the Dragon. And it's mentioned that he, quote, paid gravely for his actions, but we don't know what that means. So who knows?
I like the when they're arguing back and forth about like who should, whether sit on the throne or not. Kristen comes up not under the list of people who slept with people and dishonored their cloak, right? Kristen comes up because they're arguing about whether a woman should sit on a throne or not, and he says, he's saying, women can't, and she says, why? I'm my father's heir. And he says, you twist my words, Doran is different. The 7 kingdoms never had a ruling queen. The first Viserys intended his daughter Rhaenyra to follow him. Do you deny it? But as the king lay dying, the Lord Commander of his Kingsguard decided that it should be otherwise. And then that's when they go into Kristen Cole, which is, again, not exactly how the show portrayed it. But, on the show, it was fucking, what is her name?
Alicent.
Alicent. Here's the deathbed sort of conversation and misinterprets how the show decided to do that. But here, he's saying that it was Kristen who they called the Kingmaker, and he set brother against sister and divided the Kingsguard against itself, bringing on the terrible war the singers called the Dance of Dragons. So yeah, I like that Kristen Cole comes up, but not under the list of knights who dishonored themselves by sleeping with somebody, because later on when he's talking about Kristen, he says, there were rumors and people whispered that he had slept with Rhaenyra, and only wanted vengeance on the woman that spurred him, but that's not like the official story. And
he also says like it's a rumor that he slept with her like before he got his cloak. So it's not even really like suggested that that he soiled his cloak. It's just that there was something between them at one point.
Right. And
which is a really different thing.
Yeah, on the show they have him take the fucking oath first and then they sleep together. So yeah, I just like that we get a reference to a story that I'm now familiar with because of the show, but the way it's framed is very different from the way I experienced the story on the show. Which of course I do remember that you told me that book that the show is drawing from is a collection of various accounts. So it just feels like it tracks. Like, oh yeah, this is a version that people know of, like the several versions that exist.
Yeah, exactly. That's I guess how history tends to work mostly.
I mean,
it's
just
it's not perfect this is what we heard.
Yeah, people who get to write the story, it matters who gets to write the account. So there's again some more back and forth about how Tommen is not like his brother and he's a good boy and he's gonna be an okay king, and Aerys is just like everything else you're talking about. Like I don't know about that. I can't change the laws. I shouldn't even be here fucking you. But all she has to do is like touch him. she puts her arms around him, and she's at one point trembling, and he's just like, my God, what's wrong with you? She's never been this vulnerable before. She needs my help. My God.
Yeah, it's
almost embarrassing.
Yeah, like he is being, I don't want to say that he's necessarily being completely like played. Like, I don't know how much she cares about him, if it's pure manipulation or if there's a part of her that does like him and is also manipulating him. But like, she literally just got done saying, I can play the innocent if that excites you. And then all of a sudden she's so vulnerable, and he's like, wow. I'm like, dude, she literally said to you, I'm real good at this. Like, I don't know. It's
yeah. And she's like really pressing her case too. Like, she goes as far as to be like, after this conversation about men who have dishonored the cloak and their vows and all that jazz, she starts talking about, well, if, Myrcella is queen, she would fucking, release you of your oath. She loves me. She loves you. She would want to see us happy. She would let us get married. You and me, we could be married. You could have me and your cloak if that's really what you want. And he thinks, she is tearing me apart.
Lisa.
Oh my God.
But yeah, this the thing that got me like kind of annoyed in this chapter with him as well, beyond the completely being whipped thing, is that he is freely admitting to himself that, like, because her suspicion that she is going to be robbed of her birthright is based on a letter that she accidentally saw years ago from her father to his brother, or her brother, her brother. And he said to Quentin, you're going to be sitting where I'm sitting someday. And she, he said, you're going to be ruling all of Dorne, and you need to be making sure to listen to your instructors so that you can be fit for the job. So she is just like, yeah, he's planning on taking this away from me because he'd rather his son inherited. And Aerys is just like, yeah, well, I mean, I'd rather my son inherited too, but he couldn't say that. And I'm like, sir, I'm just mad that you even thought it. She's making these like cases, and you are purely going along with it. It feels like because you want to keep fucking her, but not because you really even believe it. As much as he says that he agrees that Myrcella is better suited to ruling than Tommen, that still doesn't feel like that's the factor for him.
No.
You know what I mean?
Not at all. Not at all. There's also a point where she's talking to him about, like, when she's talking about being afraid that she could be locked up next. And he's just like, your father would never do that. Like, why would you even say that? And she's like, dude, okay, first of all, they won't even let me see my cousins that are locked up in the tower. They've also locked up a 6 and an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Like,
he's like, they were fomenting war. And she's like, really? Were they? Okay.
And she's just like, I need you to fucking really listen to me. You say you love me. I need you to listen to me. We are as close as sisters. We have no secrets. If he can imprison them, so can I. And so can Myrcella. And again, Aerys is just like, your father would never do that. He's not listening to her, treating her like she's, being paranoid, quite frankly. And even after she tells the story about her brother, he is, what does he say? He says something like, yeah, you probably misread it.
Yeah. He's like, are you sure you didn't misunderstand? You were a child. Which, like, I mean, fair, she was much younger, but that seems like a pretty decisive statement.
It felt pretty
You're going to be
clear.
Sitting where I'm sitting, like,
one day
maybe there's another way that could be meant, but
I don't know. Unless, and she says, unless she read the letter and it wasn't being written to her brother, and she just misread whoever it was written to, then, I mean, because the words in the letter are very clear. You're right. One day you will sit the throne. One day you will sit where I sit and rule all of Dorne. Like, that's fucking cut and dry. So when
and
he's
also,
like,
Quentin is like not where everybody is saying he is.
I was about to ask that, because when he says, you probably misunderstood, she says, oh, really? Okay. Where is he right now? And he answers, oh, he's with Lord Ironwood's host. And she's like, yeah, that's what my dad told you. But I know people, and that's not where he is. As a matter of fact, he has already crossed the narrow sea, posing as a common merchant. Why would that be? And then we get, this I wasn't 100% sure of, you guys, but she says the reason is, and then she says, are you aware that the Golden Company has broken its contract with Mir? And so now we're off on like a little bit of a different conversation that I feel like I might not be super hip to. But they start talking about how the sellswords have broken their contract. And Aerys is like, a sellsword is going to sell a sword. That's what they do. And she's like, yeah, but not them. Maybe the fucking Brotherhood of Exiles or she named somebody else too. But she's like, nah, the Golden Company is different. That is, they don't just flip flop like that.
Mm-hmm. That's how they built their whole reputation, is by not being the average sellsword company.
Yeah, they've got like words and shit, like they're fucking Lannisters. Our word is good as gold, So yeah, they don't fucking just switch. And then she says, have you ever seen the arms of House Tommen, which are a dragon eating its own tail? And she talks about how that represents time, and that, things go around and around and around. And she then ends it by saying Anders Ironwood, which is the family that her brother was sent to. She says he is Kristen Cole reborn, basically calling him a kingmaker. He whispers in my brother's ear that he should try to rule, and that they are basically conspiring to rob her of her birthright.
Yeah.
And she says to him, so you got two fucking princesses that you say you fucking love, right? But you're not willing to fight for either one of us, huh? How about that? And he then just throws everything that he's been struggling with throughout this entire POV, goes flying out of the window.
Yep.
He drops to one knee, pledges that Marcella is the elder and she's better suited to the crown. And if he's not going to defend her, who fucking is there? He pledges his sword and his life and all that shit to her, and then also to Arianne, and says, I am yours. What would you have of me? And she says, all my love, my true love, my sweet love forever. But first, Marcella. And that's how it ends. So, like, when they say pussy can move mountains, y'all, I'm just here to tell you.
Yep. I really enjoy how, like, weak he is. His POV is so... It's so predictable. It's so sad. But there is something really fun about it that I enjoy.
He is just really sprung, And, like, I don't... it's like I'm being like kind of, making fun of him a little bit, but I don't know how much of it is true love, how much of it is just being like pussy whipped, which is not an expression that I generally like to use, but it feels sort of like that is the energy of this POV. Like that's what it feels like, what George is going for here. So, did you ever see
usually
Harlem
when you
Nights?
hear pussy whipped, it's always like, oh, well, she just tells you what to do. But he really, he is like a slave, like there's just, it's another level with him.
Have you ever watched Harlem Nights?
A long time ago. Is that the one with the cornbread?
It's the Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor.
Yeah. Did they go to jail?
No, that's Life with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, I think, where they go to prison.
Okay. So Harlem then Nights, that's the one where he's a bootlegger?
Yeah, they run a nightclub in 1920s Harlem.
Okay.
Like a cotton club kind of thing. And they are getting shaken down by corrupt, like, racist cops or whatever. But there's a character in the movie. She's a hooker. I forget the name of the actress who played her, but she's relatively well known. You would probably know her face if I showed her to you. And in the movie, her name is Sunshine. Her name is Sunshine because her pussy is so good, you throw it up in the air, and it's like the sun is shining. So they use Sunshine to seduce, like, the main, like, captain of the police who's corrupt and is, like, extorting the club. Like, they use her because that's how good her pussy is. And then, like, one of the last jokes, and you guys have to forgive me, I haven't watched Harlem Nights in many, many years, but one of the last lines towards the resolution of the movie is the cop, like, after he gets done fucking her, he just, like, calls home, and he's like, yeah, Susan, I'm never coming home again. Click. And just hangs up.
Well, damn, Sunshine. Good for you, girl. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, and then, like, if I recall, like, obviously she's not gonna fucking stay with him because, you know, he's, like, the enemy. I think I can't remember exactly how that works out, but yeah, Styles, Sharon, Susan, whatever the fuck her name is. Yeah, that's it. We're done. I'm not coming on. But anyway, so when I think of being pussy whipped, I don't think of it like you were saying earlier too about it's very much like being like henpecked, you know?
Yeah.
Because the focus on that expression is about making the man be powerless, you know? The focus is on the man being, you know, overruled or overpowered. But whenever I use that expression, my energy and my focus is on the woman.
Agree.
Right?
Agree.
So,
yep.
Like, I don't like, I don't know. I don't think about the dude. I think about the woman, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Good for her.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's the end of the chapter. So what do you think we're gonna get out of Mr. Aerys Oakheart?
You know, because of
took
this,
a sip of Coca-Cola.
Well, yeah, because here's the thing. I don't know. I'm supposed to be really like. And I know we're using the word weak a lot, and I'm sorry because it's not really the word I want, right? But his willingness to change what he claims he stands for and what his values are that quickly because he's sort of infatuated with this woman who's just putting it on him. I think he even says somewhere that it's been like 10 years since he's fucked somebody, right? And then like there's something about him. I can't put my finger on it, but I think he's sincere in like his expressions of devotion to her at the end of this chapter. But I don't think he is going to do well. And what I mean by that is I don't think he maybe has the strength of character that this agenda might require.
Gotcha.
And I've also been thinking too, you guys, and this is unfortunate, but I've been like, who's going to die? Right? Because it's been a minute. It's been a minute. You know, we've lost some guys at the North, you know, with Jon Snow and all that jazz. But, like, it's been a little bit of a minute since we've had, like, a big shocking thing, right? And I feel like there's a lot of people that I need to start looking at, like, how much longer are you going to be here for this story? Do you make it to the end and starting to look at people that way? So, I don't know. We'll see. I think this guy means what he's saying to her in this moment, but I just don't know how consistent he's going to be. Gotcha. And if he is a flip-flopper, you know, they don't have a long shelf life in this universe.
John Kerry over here.
Oh my god!
You remember that? Yeah, and there's a mention of like Ario Hota, who he would have to deal with regarding Marcella, and he's like, oh, that guy. Like, there's a whole vibe of the reputation Hota has. And he said something about how the man unsettled him, and that there were rumors that he like slept in his bed with
his ex,
which I do really enjoy.
So
Arianne is like, you don't know what he's like when he's roused, but it is really formidable.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, they're gonna try to steal her away, I guess, right? That's the plan. I don't, and it's so wild because this is so unlike what was on the show that I can't even like cheat, you know?
Yeah.
If they are successful in stealing her away, and that opens up this whole additional plot device of getting her on the throne. One, I'm here for it because it's just so wildly different than anything that happened on the show. I'd be fascinated to read that story, but I don't know if that happens. But yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know if this dude, like, it's like, they don't tell us how it is that she ends up, and I'm talking about fucking Arianne, how they end up together, her and Aerys, right?
You mean like how they met?
No, not how they met, but how they ended up fucking. Like how they, air quotes, fell in love. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if, like, for all I know, this could be part of a long plan that she has. For all I know, she saw him and threw herself at him with the intention of having access to Marcella, because that's her, you know, he's, you know what I mean? I don't know. Or they could have met a little bit more organically and had an attraction. And then as a couple, she starts, like, all this other shit happens, you know? I also don't have a timeline for when they started fucking, you know? Like, maybe they started fucking because it was just something to do. And then Oberyn died. And then all this other shit showed. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't have enough backstory.
Because it was just something to do.
You know what
It's so insulting.
You know what I mean? No, you guys know what I mean. Like,
no,
like,
I do.
I don't know if their being together happened after Oberyn was murdered. Did she pick this guy on purpose because of who he is? So
what you want to know is, how long has this been going on? That's what you want.
Kinda. So yeah, so I don't know, because especially if it turns out that this is an agenda of hers, that she pegged this man because of what she needed to. Oh my God, you guys. That's it. End of the podcast. Wrap it up. I'm done talking for now. I gotta save my talking for Unsober. Clearly, I'm running low. Thanks for listening this week, guys. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.